At the end of the last episode, we left Ellie and Joel while they were held at gunpoint by the supposed Fedra collaborator Henry and his little brother. How will this play out? Will they join forces or will they fight each other? And what about Kathleen and her militia group that just overthrew Fedra? What would happen if they fell into her hands? Will this episode put Ellie and Joel again front and center, or will they take a backseat again, as in the episode around Bill and Frank's romance? If you'd like to find out, then join me for this review video. First of all, thanks for tuning in, because this video marks a small milestone for myself, because it is my 200th piece of content on my channel. 200 videos in just under 3 years. I think I can be quite happy with that. But now let's look into this week's synopsis. We start with a flashback, where we can see how Kathleen's group is taking over control about the quarantine zone. And this shows us that even though we know that Fedra is brutal and a totalitarian regime, that the insurgents are not much better, because they are torturing the soldiers and killing them slowly, hanging them, dragging them on cars through the streets, basically showing no mercy at all. And the same goes for the collaborators they have captured, because Kathleen is asking them if they have information about Henry and his whereabouts, and promised them that they would get their day in court, and the worst case scenario for them would be to spend some time in prison. But after getting the information, she ordered them to be killed. We also meet Henry and his little brother Sam, and we learn over the course of this episode that he indeed is a collaborator, giving up Kathleen's brother, which resulted in that man being killed. Although he was, according to Henry, a really good man, a kind man, that he should not have given up. But he did so because Sam was developing leukemia, and Fedra was promising Henry to give them the medication they need to make sure that Sam will be cured, which he was. However, that betrayal is eating heavily on Henry's conscience. We follow the brothers for the first 15 minutes of this episode, with the flashback ending at the point where they realize that Edelstein, the doctor that Kathleen has killed because he wouldn't give up Henry, would not return to them, giving them more supplies while they were hiding away. Which means now they had to find their way out of the city, otherwise they would just starve or end up being killed by Kathleen and her man. Back in the present moment, Henry is lowering his gun, showing Joel that they did not mean any harm, and offers to join forces because he knows a way out of the city, which would benefit all of them. The way out leads through a system of tunnels that everyone is expecting to be swarming with infected. But Henry has learned from someone inside Fedra that those tunnels had been cleared out years ago, and that there at most be a straggler here or there, for which he would need someone like Joel to take care of it. Meanwhile, Ellie and Sam are bonding because, even though there is an age gap of 6 years between them, with Sam being 8 years old, she still enjoys it being around another kid. Especially after finding out that Sam also is a fan of the Savage Starlight comics. A comic which is the source of the mantra "Endure and survive", which is also the title of this episode. Meanwhile, Joel is struggling what to think about Henry, because he, admitting to be a collaborator but explaining the reasons, is a tough nut for Joel to crack. Because on one hand he hates collaborators, no matter the reason, while on the other hand, remembering what it meant to be a father, he is quite sure that he would likely have done the same thing if his daughter's life would have been on the line. So step by step they both also form some kind of an understanding and maybe even a little bit of a friendship. After passing through the tunnels without a hitch and almost out of town, all of a sudden someone is opening fire on them. An old man, as Joel finds out, who is working with Kathleen, and she and her group are already on their way. While Henry, Sam and Ellie are hiding, fearing for their lives, Joel, with the sniper rifle he just recovered from the old man, is trying to make sure that they are staying safe down there. After shooting the driver of one of the attacking vehicles, it explodes and falls into a sinkhole, out of which an army of infected is coming out. You have basically all of them. Runners, clickers, including a very large and dangerous one called a bloater. Against all odds, Joel from his elevated point is making sure no one gets to them, and in what somehow feels like a miracle, they are actually making it out alive. Something that cannot be said of Kathleen because her vengeance was more important than taking care of the fact that no infected is getting to her. Outside of the city limits, they find a place to stay, an old hotel, where Sam, in private, is showing to Ellie that he was bitten. Something that makes her cut her own hand and putting blood onto Sam's wound, because she believes that her blood is the cure and just putting it on there would help. Promising him to stay awake with him and keeping watch during the night, she falls asleep and comes to him sitting on his bed. And when she approaches him, he turns around, already being under the control of the fungus, and attacks her. This ends with Sam still attacking Ellie, being shot by Henry, after he tried to keep Joel away because he wanted to protect his brother. But ultimately, he did the thing that needed to be done. However, not being able to live with that, he then shoots himself. And after burying the two of them, Ellie and Joel continue their journey, again just the two of them. This episode was quite interesting in the regards that it is a mixture of the previous ones, where you don't have just a short flashback but a longer one, but it is just a quarter of the episode, which is running roughly 60 minutes. The rest of the time, again, is focusing on Joel and Ellie and their journey, even though they are accompanied for a while by Sam and Henry. Somehow it was a clear thing that Sam and Henry either have to die or have to leave, because Joel was actually offering Henry that they could join them, if they like. Something I guess would not have fitted into the storyline of the game, even though I don't know if they even meet Henry and Sam or if they are original characters here. In any case, I cannot imagine that in the game they would journey together, but maybe I find out soon, because I actually started to play the game again. And I'm now at the point where they meet up with Bill, which is like 3 episodes of a show ago. But still, I'm getting there. Our main takeaway from this episode is that they are leaning again into the moral question of what makes a person good or bad, and how most people are somehow navigating the grey area in between. Which is here showcased by Fedra being killed in a merciless way, even though they were brutal monsters themselves, but the militia group also doesn't show more humanity than the military did. Apparently Kathleen's brother was the only good man, who was previously leading the resistance until he was killed. But as Kathleen's second in command is saying, he was a good man, but he wasn't able to defeat Fedra. Something she was able to, because Kathleen was navigating the grey areas, something that her brother wasn't willing to do. That's also the reason why she is not forgiving Henry, even though her brother told her before he died that she should do that. However, her revenge for her is her highest priority, and her second in command doesn't even have an issue with that. Like I said in the synopsis, she also promised the collaborators to have a fair trial, which they will not get because they are killed off. Also something that doesn't really showcase that you are a good person if you do such a thing. That theme of course continues with Henry, who also is navigating the grey areas because he was betraying Kathleen's brother to save his brother. Something that also will become food for thoughts for Joel, because he was considering what he would have done if he would have been in Henry's shoes. On top of the things that he already has done, because he, as we know, also is not that squeaky clean, even though his character in the show is a little bit cleaner than the one in the game, where he basically has no problem killing someone if he has something to gain from it. And this theme that is going through the whole episode also reminds us of the fact that this show is called The Last of Us, and the title might have different meanings. The same way as The Walking Dead in that universe also might have different meanings. The Last of Us could mean straightforward the last people on Earth that are still alive. It could also mean that The Last of Us is the humanity that we lose when we give in and do whatever needs to be done to survive. And I guess there could be so many more different meanings that you could project into that title. But for me, those two are the main two ideas that I connect with that title. Even though this episode is not focusing on the relationship between Joel and Ellie, because it was more about Joel and his relationship with Henry and his ability to maybe make new friends, even if they have a shady background themselves. and the relationship between Ellie and Sam, which shows us that she is still a kid, and even though she has lived through a lot of bad things, she still was able to keep a little bit of her innocence. Playing into my question from the previous episodes where I was asking myself if she really is as innocent as she seems, or if what we sometimes see shining through, this glimpse of maybe being a little bit of a maniac inside of her, might be turning out to be her real face. As of now, I think they want to show us that she really is an innocent child and worth the trust that Joel is starting to put into her. And Ellie trying to heal Sam with her own blood, where she didn't hesitate to cut herself, which was a little bit creepy, but the intention behind it was good, also is showing us pretty clearly that she most likely is a good and innocent person, even though she sometimes appears a little bit creepy. And even though not much screen time is given just to the two of them, we also see that Joel and Ellie are getting closer and closer. Because now, when he asked her if she is trusting him, she immediately answered with yes. Something that she would likely not have done a few episodes ago. With a question suggesting that he also trusts her. And with all the emotions you could see Pedro Pascal is putting into his performance when he is playing Joel being afraid of losing Ellie. Fighting for her life while shooting everyone around her, which for me was the emotional highlight of this episode, is also a clear sign that his opinion of her has changed a lot since they started off their journey. Well, the acting, as usual, is quite strong in this episode, which is also shown with Sam and Henry, who are doing a great job in their roles. I know I heard some voices that are complaining that Melanie Lynskey was playing the leader a little bit too soft. To which I just can say that because she was playing it so soft, the cruelty she is doing was even appearing creepier than it would have been the other way around.
I know why you did what you did, but did you ever stop to think that maybe he was supposed to die?
He's just a fucking kid!
And also, you don't have to be a loudmouth to be someone who is being respected and who is commanding authority, which is shown here by the way that everyone is following her. Even though she may not appear as hard as other leaders, but also as we can see, she is plenty hard and ruthless. So it all adds together, I think. Production values and direction and camera work, as always, were also great in this episode. And we had that fantastic action sequence where a lot of stuff was going on and we could see so many infected. Something that really caught me by surprise, in a positive way. It seemed a little bit too easy for them to get away in the end, even though it took quite a while and Joel was shooting down every infected that was getting near to them. But looking at the sheer mass of infected, I had to suspend my disbelief a little bit to be on board with that. But at the end of the day, even in a completely crazed world, a little miracle might be happening here and there, so why not? And as a quick side note, that sinkhole in which the vehicle is falling and which opens up the way for those infected to storm them is also explaining to us what this weird cracked up ground in that one apartment building in the last episode was supposed to mean. Where we thought that maybe something was breathing beneath, which apparently also might have been a horde of infected, almost ready to break through. I think that was everything that I wanted to mention, and I hope that I did not forget anything. So now the only thing that is left to do is going into the rating. But before we go there, let me ask you to like and share this video if you enjoyed it so far. And if you are no subscriber yet, then maybe consider to change that. By also hitting the notification bell, you will get a heads up for most of my new videos. Now for the rating. Overall, I thought they found a nice balance between flashback, where they explained to us the backstory of the main characters that we just came across. It also invested a little bit into furthering the relationship between Joel and Ellie, and it also had this very nice special effects firework that we had close to the end. And then there was also a piece of drama when we lose Sam, even though we were just getting to know him a little bit. Again, I would say the death of Bill and Frank was a little bit more impactful, but it still was tugging on our hearts. And while I appreciate them having episodes that are a little bit longer than the usual episode you have on your regular TV show, I felt this week there were some moments where it felt a little bit drawn out. Just a little bit though. Which for me means that most things again were done very well, so I'm rating this episode again with 8 out of 10 points. Which might disappoint you if you want me to score it higher, but I think it's also showing us that this show is consistently good, because each episode so far I have scored in the 7.5 to 8.5 region, which is something that I can say is not happening that often. So let's just go with that. What about you? Would you have scored this episode differently? What did you think would happen with Sam and Henry? As obviously there was no way they would stick around for much longer. Did you think they would just part ways, or were you expecting them to die? Whatever it is you like to share, just let me know in the comments. So much for now, see you next time and thanks for watching! Betraying Kathleen's brother to save his brother. Something that also will become food for thoughts for Joel, because he was considering what he would have done if he would have been in Henry's shoes.